Alright, it's 2 minutes before the big announcements start, and everybody's like a kid in a candy store the night before Christmas or something. It's big. And I'm ready, I hope. Yeah, 2 minutes to go here. This is a lot of people. Unsurprisingly, I should add. Somewhat regret not going, but maybe the next one. Anyways, yeah, PoE 2 stuff. Ah, crap, I need to pop this out. Okay, so it should still be seeing that. Yes, okay. Now I can look at the schedule here. We've got PoE 2, PoE Mobile, and 322 Keynote livestream from now until an hour and a half from now, so better hunker down. Got the drink, got the RuneScape on the side, AFK mining and whatnot. I may pause to clear my throat, but maybe I shouldn't ever, in case I forget, and then just cut it out later. Was that Lighty I just saw? Man, I really should have gone to this. Would have been kind of insane, the time schedule for me personally, but this is maybe the biggest Exilecon. I mean, at least, like, if they start doing it yearly, it'll definitely be the biggest one for a while, I think. Unless PoE 2 comes after the next one, in which case I could see that. No, got the countdown going. Hopefully the audio is balanced. I don't know if I said that already, but yeah. I'll try to stay quiet for the most part.
Hey guys, how's it going? Perry in here. And welcome to Exilecon! Thank you all so much for joining us here in New Zealand. It's quite a journey. Thank you guys for joining us online. It's going to be a fantastic show. So you guys want to learn about what's coming up in Path of Exile?
This is like the most crip
you do?
Opening ever.
Me too. Yeah. Well, before we get to the people that are best to deliver that information, before we get into Path of Exile's wonderful future, let's take a moment to go over all the wonderful things we have already experienced in Path of Exile. Let's take a moment to check out Path of Exile from the past.
Uh-oh. Some retrospective here. The super old footage.
Life is fleeting.
A worthy opponent. Go with God. Death to sin. The touch of God. Bow to your queen, mortal.
You there. Let me bend your ear for a moment.
Ah, the iconic voice lines. Remember every single one of these. Ascendancy.
Let me tell you.
Gaze into the abyss.
Breach, major turning point for the whole game. Maybe more so than expected. This music always reminds me of Oblivion. I'm just saying. Bestiary was another big turning point, the mark of the 3.x style league.
Afraid of the dark, Exile? You should be.
My cause fuels me.
Do you remember dying here?
10 years of this game. I started playing 10 years ago, just over.
It's branching, Exile!
Now the music shift towards the later style music with the Eldritch bosses here.
This one should be rather legitimate. Does the toy wish to play with me?
Your path to greatness has taken a hard turn toward a cliff.
Detonations incoming!
There's no time. I've become too weak to sustain the blood crucible.
I didn't play a lot of Scourge because I got married at that time.
Another mortal wanders into my prison.
You cannot escape Baydad's gaze!
Sanctum. I think my most played league at this point. Uh-oh. The Act 1 trailer. The visuals are so good in all of the PoE 2 trailers. I wonder if there's a system that allows you to quickly alternate skills. Uh-oh. That was a little abrupt. Oh, here comes Chris. Say the line.
Hi, I'm Chris Wilson from Grinding Gear Games.
Everybody is waiting for it.
Welcome to Exilecon 2023. It feels like just yesterday that I was here on stage at Exilecon 2019 announcing Path of Exile 2. Since then, we have worked tirelessly on the content we're going to show you this weekend. To everyone here in person, thank you so much for coming out to join us. It honestly feels so good to know that people love Path of Exile so much that they fly across the world to come and celebrate it with us in person here. I really hope you have a great trip and make the most of your time in New Zealand. Our last Exilecon was a magical experience, and we've tried to go above and beyond in every way this time. If you're tuning in online to watch the live stream, thanks for joining us also. I wish you could all be with us here, but to ensure you have the full Exilecon experience, we have made sure to include every talk and session as part of the 2-day live stream this weekend. Twitch drops are enabled for the live stream, but if you're here in the audience, you'll automatically get them when you redeem the microtransaction code in your swag bag, so no need to stream it from your phones while you're watching. You'll also receive the attendee-only Exilecon 2023 hideout. We have so much to share with you this weekend, and let's just get right into Path of Exile 2. I'd like to introduce Jonathan Rogers and Mark Roberts, game directors of Path of Exile 2.
Let's do it.
Hey guys. While Chris has been running Path of Exile 1, Mark and I and over 100 other developers have been hard at work on PoE 2. And honestly, the project has become much bigger than we expected when we announced it in 2019. It's been almost 4 years since then, and so it's about time we showed you what we've been working on. Oh, hang on.
Technical difficulties.
Okay. When we announced Path of Exile 2 at Exilecon 2019, we told you guys that we were releasing it as an expansion to PoE 1, and that both campaigns would be playable in the same game client with a shared endgame. But PoE 2's scope has continued to grow and grow. And it's far more than just an expansion with a new campaign. It has entirely new monsters, skills, mechanics, classes, everything you'd expect from the next generation of action RPGs. not to mention revamps of most of the PoE 1 League content. This thing is just freaking huge. There was a point when we realized that our plan to replace PoE 1 with PoE 2 would essentially be getting rid of a game that people love for no real reason. So we made a decision. Path of Exile 1 and 2 will be separate with their own mechanics, balance, endgames, and leagues.
Really?
But it's still a shared platform. Your microtransactions are available across both games. Everything you have ever purchased or will ever purchase in the future will be usable in both games unless it's hyper-specific to the content of one of them. You can't transform into a bear in PoE 1, so a reskin of your bear form isn't going to work. But you absolutely can equip the awesome armor set that you got.
Holy crap, this is big news.
So with that in mind, we'd love to show you a live demo of some of the stuff we've been working on. PoE 2 has come a long way. Mark here is going to man the PC. Hopefully he doesn't die. It is a live game.
That is a huge thing to start off with, so...
All right.
The gods caused all this, you know.
Ooh.
After Oriath was destroyed, I traveled, searching for answers. Everywhere I went, the same divine devastation. It must end. I
Interesting
will end it,
aesthetic.
and no exile will stop me.
Ooh. Warrior. Huntress. Wait a minute. This is a lot of classes. Okay. Was that 7? I lost count. Health bar is amazing. Again, visually amazing. No idea how many PoE 1 has. Again, no frame of reference here. 100 bosses sounds like a lot. Holy crap, that was a weird looking passage tree. 36 ascendancy classes. Hang on, that's as many as PoE 1. I think.
This world
technically.
will be reborn, no matter the cost.
Never mind, what I said just then was dumb. I'm too hyped to think rationally.
All right, Mark, your turn now. Welcome to Path of Exile 2. We'd like to start off by showing you some of the gameplay of Act 3, one of the 6 acts in PoE 2's campaign.
6 acts instead
We're
of
starting
7.
here in the jungle depths. Act 3 is set in the ruins of the Vaal civilization, which fell thousands of years ago. Jungle has taken over their former once great cities, and we'll be exploring it using one of the 6 new character classes called the Monk.
One of the
In
6
PoE 1, we have
new
one
character
class for each
classes.
of the combinations of strength, dexterity, and intelligence. When looking at the design of PoE 2, though, we realized that many of the new skills that we were trying to design just didn't really fit thematically with the existing classes that we have.
Yep.
Being a spellcaster with a bear form makes sense for strength int, but it just doesn't really sound like something a Templar would do.
Yep.
We realized that since we had new mechanics for every
More
attribute
midpoints.
combination, it actually made sense to design a new character class to explore the new themes. In PoE 2, every attribute combination has 2 classes associated with it. Strength int has the Templar or the Druid, On dexterity, you have the ranger or the more spear-focused huntress. And on dex int, you have the shadow and the monk, which Mark is playing here. Each class has its own 3 ascendancies that let you further specialize the class in a way that only that class has access to. But they both start at the same location on the passive tree. The push rewards you are offered on the 2 variants are tailored to the class. But of course, this is PoE. You can still mix and match anything to your heart's content.
I'm really curious to see how... I forgot already if they mentioned whether PoE 1 will get updated.
In PoE 2, every area of the campaign contains a boss of at least this difficulty. That's over 100 bosses to fight as you make your way through the campaign, and they all have unique mechanics.
Should be good for maps to have more bosses with actual mechanics. Maps. Are there gonna be maps? Who knows? Endgame at least, you know? Yeah, the moment-to-moment looks significantly finer grained.
You notice that melee combat in PoE 2 is a very different feel than before. We've done a lot of things to add mobility to combat. Practically every melee skill in PoE 2 has some kind of movement built into it. The monk in particular is a melee fighter who specializes in mobility over brute strength.
That is exactly the type of thing melee needs versus like a damage buff. The Cyclone being dominant as like a skill for the longest time. Part of the reason is the mobility.
So, as Mark has been playing, you might have noticed these blue markers over enemies. Mark has a skill equipped called Killing Palm. Whenever an enemy has a blue indicator over it, it means that the monster has low enough life to cull with Killing Palm. Successfully executing the cull will give you a power charge. This is an important skill for the monk, since many of his skills interact with power charges. One of the great things about this skill is that it has a built-in dash forward, which makes it much easier to target the skill right at the point where you need it. We've done a huge amount of work in PoE 2 to make using skills like this feel satisfying.
Yep.
If you're accidentally targeting
Can already feel
monster, the skill will automatically lock onto the colorable target, and it will even do a small amount of pathfinding.
It's like a lightning strike.
We really want to make sure that when you've got an opportunity to use the skill, nothing is going to get in your way. One of the
gold. Hang on a minute.
Power charges, you're going to need some skills to power up.
How did I not notice that sooner?
Falling Thunder. Falling Thunder without a power charge just creates a relatively small lightning area.
Slightly concerning for me, but
if you do it with power charge,
I'll hold judgment for now.
Clearer with a large number of extra projectiles. One thing to notice here is that, like almost every melee skill in PoE 2, Falling Thunder has a little bit of extra movement built in, just in case you need it. Use the skill within range and you just do the flip in place. You use it at a larger range and your character will move forward while executing it, getting you into position without any time penalty. In PoE 2, you also get a short period to redirect your target. Notice how you can start the skill facing one way, then whip the mouse sideways to land the skill in a different direction?
Very nice.
Now, in order to get power charges, you're going to first need to get some lower life monsters into a cullable range. You've got a few options if you want to charge right in. Whirling Assault is great. It doesn't do much damage per hit, but it covers a lot of ground. And notice how you can turn as you do it? Generally speaking, you never lose control of your character in PoE 2. If you make a turn at the right time, you can get a couple of extra hits in on the monsters, getting them in range of your cull.
Yep, makes sense.
Follow up with a Killing Palm and then finish off the rest of the pack with your Falling Thunder. We've now entered the Vaal Mechanarium. This is the place where the Vaal built the various constructs that they relied on to power their civilization.
Now this is a find. A Vaal ruin that
Alva.
hasn't been looted.
Alright.
I wonder why nobody's been in here before.
One useful feature we've added is the ability to call in NPCs to where you are to give you more information or help you with quest objectives, rather than always having to go back to town. In this case, we've called in Alva to find out what to do.
This mechanism, if powered with a small soul core, it could open that door. There should definitely be soul cores somewhere around here. They had to power these constructs somehow.
As Alva just said, we need to find a small soul core to open this door. Let's explore.
Get back!
If you want to shave off some life without getting too close to some of the more dangerous monsters, a great option is Wind Blast. Wind Blast also doesn't do too much damage, but it keeps enemies back. The closer they are, the farther they're pushed back, so it's a great option for keeping smaller but higher damage enemies at bay. Note that the bigger the enemy is, the less they'll be pushed back, so trying to push back some giants isn't going to be as effective. And there's the soul core. Let's get back to the door.
I wonder if the gold came out of that Ruthless with Gold experimentation, or prior to that. I would imagine prior, since that wasn't that long ago, but maybe they liked it well enough.
Now, if you need to defeat tougher enemies, it might be time to break out some of the ice skills in the monk's arsenal. Glacial Cascade creates a wave of ice that moves slowly in front of the player. It's pretty ineffective against fast-moving monsters because most of the damage occurs right at the end of the wave, and so a lot of monsters will just walk right by it. But if you can find a way to make a monster stop at just the right place, it can be very effective. In order to do that, you're probably going to want to freeze some monsters. The monk has a few different tools to do this. A fairly simple option is to get right in the monster's face with Ice Strike. Ice Strike doesn't do too much damage at the first 2 hits, but attack 3 times in sequence, and you can get off a combo that has a much higher chance to freeze. Get in there with the freeze, then roll back and finish the job with Glacial Cascade. Now, remember how Glacial Cascade is that extra damaging spike at the end? If you hit a frozen enemy with that spike, it shatters the ice on the enemy and does a devastating amount of damage. This is a really great combo
Noticed that earlier.
as you'll see later.
Explosive AoE type of look.
Rolling around. Did I forget to mention that in PoE 2 we added a dodge roll to every character? Just press spacebar at any time to roll.
People were really hoping that wasn't
no cooldown
a skill requirement.
And it even has pathfinding in it, so you don't get stuck on anything. When you...
Yep. And then you get stuck on something.
When you dodge roll, you're not invulnerable. If something hits you, you're going to feel it. But most things aren't going to hit you. And that's because while you're rolling, projectiles and melee strikes will always miss. You have to roll out of the way of a slam that has AoE, but anyone swinging a sword or throwing a fireball is going to miss. Now, another important function of dodge roll...
That's going to mess me up in other games for sure.
At any time. This makes it so you don't feel like you're getting stuck during a long animation when something's about to hit you. It really changes how skills with longer attack and cast times play, and makes dodge roll a very reliable feeling way to avoid attacks. So, that's one way to get out of the way of damage, but the monk specializes in mobility, so it makes sense that he would have some more. Wave of Frost is one of our new attacks with a retreat built right in. You move backwards and throw out a cold attack with a significant freeze. A great thing about this is that it puts you at a good distance to follow up with a Glacial Cascade and do a whole pile of damage.
Cold and support. Am I noticing some auto pickup, or is that stuff disappearing? I think it's disappearing. As in, like, they have drops hidden, but it still shows a little bit to start off. Yeah. I think the hover there confirmed that. Yep. I think people are chattering about that in the background. Ooh, crunchy.
Another skill you can use to get some extra freeze is Shattering Palm. Shattering Palm is a palm strike that puts a small ice bomb on the target. Kill or deal enough damage to the target and the bomb will explode, doing some damage and a significant freeze. It's a great option against bosses where the wave of ice might not be enough to get that freeze off. But you still really want to use Glacial Cascade to get the damage bonus.
The gold definitely has auto pickup. There's a noise associated. I think it's too quiet to hear in the video, but...
Today is Flicker Strike. It's a monk skill and another skill that consumes power charges.
Power charges on Flicker Strike.
If you've played PoE 1 before, you know what to expect.
Yep. People love Flicker Strike.
It's a great finisher for tough boss fights, if you were able to get some power charges beforehand.
boss time?
Here we have Blackjaw, former overseer of the Mechanarium. When the Val fell, he was turned to stone and now guards the area. In order to take down this boss, we're going to need all the tools on the Monk's arsenal, especially the combo of Freeze and Glacial Cascade. Now, if you're a PoE 1 player, you might think you can't rely on Freeze because there's so many bosses that are immune to it. But in PoE 2, that's changing significantly. In PoE 1, Freeze is a binary mechanic. An attack freezes the target, or it doesn't. What this basically means is that in PoE 1, we were forced to add freeze immunity to many bosses because Freeze just trivialized them. Because of that, freezing was something you could only really rely on while pack clearing, and not something you could use as a core part of your build for boss fighting. In PoE 2, though, all crowd control mechanics now have internal meters that allow you to build up to a freeze or stun, or whatever other CC mechanic that you're using. It's a little bit like Poise from games like Elden Ring, though the meters tend to be a lot smaller than those games. When you freeze an enemy, it increases the amount of freeze you need to do to get another freeze, but the increased difficulty bleeds away slowly. More freeze will always freeze the boss more often, but this system means that you will not get out of control in party play or interact badly with other CC mechanics, allowing us to let these kinds of mechanics actually work against all bosses.
I like it. So, each zone, are you going to have to fight the boss? Because this one, it definitely seems like you do. Could put a bigger emphasis on single target than in PoE 1. Just based on, you know, it was really only about the act boss. You're never clearing a zone boss. So, I could see this being a bit of a game changer in that regard. Oh no.
What? Oh no.
I like the death screen.
Alright. Let's take two. Alright, so this might be a good time to mention that in PoE 2, if you die to the boss, you have to start again from the start. There's no boss cheesing.
Okay.
So
another.
There might be a. Are you okay? Oh, 1 second. One technical issue.
That I like things that incentivize not going full glass cannon. I think a lot of people play glass cannon, but they would enjoy if they weren't incentivized to, if that makes sense. I mean, I like glass cannon at times, but I definitely don't like dying when I feel like I shouldn't. If that makes sense.
Do we ever balance that? Like, come on.
Again, further incentive to make sure your character is more well-rounded, I feel like. In that, before, especially like through the campaign, very clear speed focus, not a lot of demand for single target. And I feel like with this sort of setup, if you're going to have to be fighting more big single targets, like a boss in a zone, or even the later act bosses, I'm sure, are pretty crazy. Especially given that there are only 6 compared to PoE's 10. I feel like that's going to be a pretty big game changer. I already said that, but I felt like it demanded reiterating, because it's one of those things that you might not think about until you're actually in the game.
Oh.
I love the reactions from people. Just the mic reactions during this and hearing the crowd is so great. Yeah, the dodge roll is going to come in handy. So, people were wondering whether or not the game would get slowed down, and now I think it's a lot more likely. Because if they're saying, you know, PoE 1 can be as crazy as PoE 1 is, PoE 2 is a chance for them to reset that and sort of go for a different pace without upsetting the people that like the pacing of PoE 1. Especially if it gets updates, which, you know, who knows? Maybe they'll develop leagues in such a way that PoE 1 can get them. Again, I don't remember what they said initially, but that'd be interesting to find out. Hearing his reactions just makes this so much better.
Get it. They're so good. There you go.
After this.
No. Get it. Okay. All
The
right.
backseating. Classic.
All right.
That'd be the most anyone has ever invested in that fight, by the way.
All right. Second time's the charm. So, Blackjaw has dropped a consumable quest item here called the Flame Core. It's a permanent +10 to Spirit. In PoE 2, we really want to make sure that you feel rewarded for exploration. It wouldn't be much good if we made all these awesome optional bosses if we didn't have something great to find for killing them.
Optional.
One of the things you might find for killing a boss
Spirit.
is permanent stat bonuses for your character.
Okay.
I wonder what spirit does.
Wonder what spirit does. He says.
All right, now because this random area is different, Mark will have to find his way to the exit the hard way.
This is, because I died, this is no longer rehearsed at all.
All right.
Face your demise.
It's a hex mob.
Go around this way.
Need to use those killing palms more often, Mark.
Nice roll out of the way, yeah. I can't get over the gold. I need to know what they're doing with that. What changed in their philosophy. Utilizing the movement there, I like it. In lieu of something like phasing. I'm also not seeing any cooldowns on the skills, which I think most people see as a good thing.
Lightning strike. Oh. I think you got completely lost there.
I have no idea where I am.
All right. Yeah, there we go. All right, here we are. Here's the exit.
I'm gonna die to these sentinels somehow.
All right. Let's go right through. All right.
Classic. Run off.
All right. In order to help with the next area, we're going to call in a sorceress. I'd like to welcome Octavian to the stage, who's going to join the party with Mark, so we can play through together.
Here we go. Let's see what this looks like.
Alright, 1 second.
I'm 100%. People are spamming log in right now.
Here we go. Alright. The sorceress.
I mean, they
is
probably
the
already were,
intelligence
but
focused character in PoE 2. While the witch focuses more on occult magic and summoning, the sorceress is themed around pure elemental destruction. Let's have a look at how she plays.
This is the largest soul core I've ever seen. With this, we could power the canal systems. But it isn't charged.
uh-oh, gotta eat some souls.
There's still latent energy in this machinarium from its ancient operation. These lines in the stonework should lead to generators. You might need to find some more soul cores to spin them up, but everything looks to be in surprisingly decent condition. Maybe the golems have been maintaining it. In any case, it should still function.
Is Alpha 20 years older?
That large core from the
Oh, what are they doing about that? Maybe PoE 2 doesn't take place decades after the first
We have some
anymore.
skills here you're probably going to recognize if you've played PoE 1 before, but they feel a bit different now.
Like Ice
Spark
Nova?
is great in these tight passages since it bounces around. We've added a Pierce support gem to really allow it to hit an entire room full of targets. For a more single target focused skill, Arc is a great choice. It does much more damage than the first target that you hit.
Yep, as in PoE 1.
Now, if you find yourself surrounded, it might be a good idea to use Ice Nova. It hits all enemies around you and slows them down with a chill. Just be careful. Getting up close and personal isn't the ideal place for a sorceress to be. She doesn't have the defenses of a more melee-oriented character.
In what way?
In order to help with that, though, you could use Arctic Armor. In PoE 2, Arctic Armor is a buff that builds up as you stand still. You can see the ice crystals forming around the character.
Yep,
They
and
drop
the
off
ticker
if you
in the
walk.
upper right. The left, rather.
When monsters hit you, they take cold damage and build up to a freeze. So it's a great defense. Just be careful. You have to be standing still for a little while to get the full effect, so trying to stutter step using it isn't the best strategy.
Yep.
Now, Arctic Armor is an ongoing buff, but did you notice it didn't reserve any mana? How does that work? Well, we were pretty sick of the fact that in PoE 1, basically every character was playing with no mana pool, so we decided to change the way that reservation works. In PoE 2, there's a new resource called Spirit. Spirit is a dedicated resource that you can use for ongoing effects like Arctic Armor, Heralds, Auras, and Minions.
Okay. Auras, Heralds,
Everyone
Minions,
starts with 100
they
Spirit,
said.
which is enough for most ongoing effects. But if you want more, you're going to need to get some more Spirit, which is available on mods from items and on the passive tree. But if
Okay.
you're willing to go up your offhand slot, the easiest way to get it is by holding a Scepter. Find out more about that in the items talk later on.
Oh, the
Now,
items
if you want
talk
to
later
increase
on?
the cold damage that you're dealing, you can always use Frost Bomb. It places
Sorry,
a
that was
bomb on the
probably
ground that reduces enemies' cold resistance while it's ticking down. It's a great opportunity to use some cold skills before it explodes. And speaking of cold skills, a great skill to use on monsters with lower cold resistance is Comet. This is a new skill in PoE 2 and it hits pretty damn hard. It costs a lot of mana and has a really long cast time, but it's worth the wait. It does a devastating amount of damage. To help you out of danger, your character moves back slightly as it casts. It's pretty hard to hit fast-moving opponents, but it's great on tougher enemies that stand still, or even a larger pack if you're further away and can predict where they're going to move. Now, if you run out of mana casting too many of those, I guess in an emergency you could use your free-to-cast Fireball. So where did that come from, you ask? Well, this is a great opportunity to explain the way that we've changed caster weapons in PoE 2. Now, in PoE 1, caster weapons had a default melee attack that nobody used. And because they had that, they also had a bunch of attack mods that would spawn in them that were useless to a caster. In PoE 2, we wanted to clean that up. So each staff now comes with a built-in free-to-cast spell.
Okay, very nice.
Just put it on and spam away to your heart's content. Now, this particular staff is the base type that you'll get right on the starting beach, so it's quite likely that you'll have outgrown it by now. So that's why we've also made a lot of staves with more utility-focused powers for casters to use. Here we have a crystal staff. It has a pretty cool built-in spell called Unleash. Using it slams your staff on the ground and will allow you to triple cast whatever you cast with your next spell. Now, of course, what you're probably going to want to use with that is
Like
something
the support
powerful,
gem.
and
Yep.
Comet is a great option.
Oh,
You'll notice that Unleash is one of the few skills in PoE 2 with a cooldown. In general, we really try to avoid using cooldowns because we really hate the feeling that combat is just waiting to cast your next spell. But it does make sense for Unleash since it's free to cast, and it's something we want you to use situationally anyway. Now, if you're facing something tough, you might need to try out Mana Tempest. Mana Tempest creates a circle of power which your character literally hovers over the ground. While in the circle, your mana drains, but it powers up all your spells. Lightning projectiles will fork, beams will chain further, and you also do a lot more damage.
Awesome. I like the voice lines. Out of mana. Another classic.
So, with all of these skills, here's a great combo to try. First, cast Frost Bomb to reduce the target's cold resistance. Then use Mana Tempest to increase your damage. Follow up with Unleash, and then triple cast Comet to do a truly insane amount of damage.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, Matha was saying in the pre-show that this type of stuff is interesting to have, and I agree. The combo-oriented gameplay.
Whose fault is that? This rare monster has dropped an uncut gem, and that's a great opportunity to talk about how skill gems drop in PoE 2.
Let's see.
Instead of dropping specific gems, you can find uncut gems. Just right-click on them and pick whatever skill you want.
What?
Whoops.
That's insane.
The gem will come pre-leveled to the level of the area that dropped it. So it's a lot easier to change between skills in PoE 2.
Nice.
This time I think it might be cool to grab one of our meta gems. Meta gems are skills that can have other skills socketed into them, changing how they work. In this case, we're going to select Cast on Shock.
What?
Now, let's equip this thing in the skill screen and choose which spell to trigger with it. I think Comet might be fun.
Yep.
Now, because Cast on Shock reserves Spirit, we'll need to first disable our Arctic Armor. We have to decide if we'd rather have the extra defense or the extra offense of the Cast on Shock using our Spark. In PoE 2, trigger gems use a system of filling up cast time on each trigger. Basically, if a skill has a short cast time, it will trigger really often. And if it has a long cast time, like this Comet here, it will take a lot longer to trigger. You can see on the top left corner, there's a counter that shows you how long until the next trigger.
Very nice balancing on that compared to PoE 1. Where you want to go for longer stuff.
Hopefully he shocks the monsters.
To subvert the cast time.
There we go.
There we go.
And there you have it. That's using Cast on Shock. We've automatically cast Comet whenever we're using our lightning skills. So, we've found the generator. Time to power it up. As power is restored to the Mechanarium, all the constructs are coming back to life. We're going to fight them on the way back to the charged Soul Core. So, one thing that PoE 1 players might have noticed is this character has both lightning spells and cold spells. That's pretty inefficient, right? It's a big no-no for most builds because any specialization into cold or lightning isn't going to affect the other element. And generic elemental damage increases are not going to be as powerful as focusing on a single element. Well, in PoE 2 we have another major new system to introduce to solve these kinds of problems. And it starts, oddly enough, with weapon swap. Now, in PoE 1, weapon swap isn't really used much for its originally intended purpose. We imagine that people were going to be swapping in and out between different weapons to deal with whatever situation they were in. People just don't do that at all. And a large reason for that is because it's really, really awkward. In PoE 2, we wanted to solve all of that. The staff Octavian is using here has an ice mod on it that makes it great for when he's using his ice spells. But we would also like to be able to make sure that this build works just as well for his lightning spells. If Octavian equips his previous staff in his second weapon set, you can see that it appears on the character's back. Now, we're going to open up the skill screen. If Octavian opens the skill options for his lightning skills, you can see here that you can choose which weapon sets are usable with each skill.
Yes.
First, we uncheck set 1 from being used by his lightning skills. Then we go through the cold skills and turn those off with his lightning weapon.
Yes. This is sweet.
If I can remember where they all are.
Yeah. Now, When we use Spark, the character will automatically switch to the lightning staff on his back and then use the skill. And when Octavian uses his Ice Nova, his character automatically switches to his Ice Staff before using it.
Yeah, that's great. I like it. Now how to like the tree
You can configure each skill for which
specialization
use, or
sort of
both
work.
if you don't mind which. There's a very short time penalty to switching, so it can be good to leave some skills on both sets if it doesn't matter which weapon set you're using. But we still have a problem. Passives.
Yep.
Wouldn't it be nice if we could
Like I
specialize
said.
both cold and lightning passives on the character? Well, in PoE 2 you can.
Let's see it.
Hopefully Mark can deal with those monsters while we do this demo.
Yep.
So,
Combat
we're on the
going
passive
on.
skill screen here, and you can see that we are close to both a cold and a lightning cluster. At the top right of the screen, you can see that we have some weapon set specific points to allocate. If Octavian holds shift, he can allocate set 1 to the cold passives, and then allocate set 2 to the lightning passives.
Yep, people are gonna love that.
Check it out. As we use our weapon swap, the skills allocate changes from one build to the other automatically. So whenever we cast the appropriate spell, the character's passives reconfigure on the fly to the correct build for that spell.
That's pretty sweet.
Now you can't do this with every single passive on your tree. Only points granted from skill books will allow this kind of dual specialization. So you're not going to be changing from a mace slamming warrior into a fire elementalist with the press of a button. But it certainly increases the number of options you have for builds.
Yeah.
There's a huge number of places where the system can shine. You can augment your dagger shadow build with traps, or have a great curse set up on your witch with one spec, and then move to your chaos debuff spells with the other, for example. It really
yeah.
opens up your options.
I like it.
Now another fun meta gem to try out is called Barrier Invocation. This works a little bit like the trigger gems I talked about before, but this one charges up as your energy shield is hit by monsters. We're going to put an Ice Nova in this one. The more energy shield you lose, the more charge builds up.
Need to get some spirit.
Click there, yep.
Looks like the
So yeah,
Bane
the more
icon.
energy shield you lose,
Probably
the more charge
placeholder.
will build up, until the point you're able to cast the socketed skill instantly. There we go. So you lose
So
some,
casting damage
so
taken,
you lose some
basically.
energy shield, and at just the right time, invoke Ice Nova
But specific
to
to
cast all the
ES.
stacked up copies in one instant cast. If you keep losing shield, you'll build up even more charge for even more casts. So it's a great defensive option in an emergency.
Overkill.
And here we are back at the charged soul core. All we have to do now is take it.
Uh-oh.
Just take it.
Just take it. Zycoatl.
Alva, what's up?
She's
die
out.
this time, guys.
Frozen? Nice.
Ooh.
Away from the wall. Frozen now. Good.
Frozen, nice.
Helps that we're both doing ice damage.
Yeah, the damage looks good here. Compared to the previous encounter. The rain of
Stun.
comets.
Okay. Nice. Frozen? Frozen again.
Getting real lucky with those freeze procs this time.
All skill.
Got shocked.
Nice. Frozen.
Big lightning AoE there.
Get away from him. Get away. Get away. Triangle.
They try. I love the call-outs they have for all of this.
Oh. Charlie.
Nice.
Oh. Large soul core.
So that's Path of Exile 2. These areas, as well as around half of each of the first 4 acts, are available to play at the 3 demo zones around Exilecon. Now, if you're physically here at this event and you get to play the demo, just remember, it's a different game than before. It's a lot harder. You're probably going to run the first pack of monsters and just die. I really recommend you read the signs. They have good advice on how to combine your skills effectively, and remember, dodge rolls on spacebar. Use it. You're just going to die otherwise. So your next question is likely to be, when is the beta? Well, we're in our last year of development, and we're still finishing acts, adding skills, and balancing everything. The closed beta is going to start on June 7th, 2024. Path of Exile 2 has been a long time coming, and we're incredibly excited to be near the finish line, but we're just not quite there yet. We're determined not to rush this and make sure we get everything right. In the meantime, there's a lot in store for PoE 1. I'll hand back over to Chris, and he's going to talk about what's coming up.
All right. I think I'm going to cut the video here, because I think that's the end of PoE 2 stuff, so be right back.